Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. Today we'll be looking at subqueries in SQL. But just like I told you guys before you start anything, you go straight to your database, the database that we created, and run it just to be sure that your database is open and working. This is the tables that we created that we've been using all along, and today we're going to look at subqueries. Remember when we treated CTEs, we said that these CTEs, they look like a subquery, but they are not subqueries. They are easier to use. The CTEs are easier to use in the sense that when you create them, you can recreate them, you can reuse them rather at some point in your query. But for subqueries, when you create them, you just create them and use them that once. If you want to use them again, you have to recreate them again, which can be a lot burdensome. So having said that, let's go straight into it. We have given a little explanation of what subqueries are, and where, and the cases and the places where we can use them. But we want to draw attention to it again, to it. So we say that subqueries can also be known as nested queries. It is a query that is written inside another SQL query. That is, you can find it is a complete query, but it happens to be written inside another SQL query, and it is used to return data that will be used by the main query. All right, whatever it is that you are querying inside a nested query, whatever it returns will be used by the main query that you wrote. Now, again, we just want to bring our attention again to know the purpose of these subqueries. We use subqueries to filter results, in complex conditions. We can use it to compare different values and then perform calculations or look up values in another table. All right, we can use subqueries for those things. Now, there are types of subqueries that we have. We have the scalar subquery, right? The scalar subquery are used to return a single value, right? They are used to return a single value. We have the row subquery where it returns just a single row and multiple columns. Take for instance, the scalar might just return one single value. Example, maybe you're just looking for an average value or the total sum or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it returns just a single value that will be used by the main query. But the row subquery returns a row with multiple columns. For instance, you can use this row subquery to look up a value that is in another table, or even a value that is in a particular table, but you just want to get the details of that particular value. Take, for instance, if somebody that is working in an organization, right, has their information in a particular table. So you want to know their age, the salary that they take, the department where they are in, and the rest of that. So you can use the row subquery to get this information. It will return the person's name with the person's details. That's the age, the age of the person, and the salary they take. Any value it is that you want to return, all of these other ones will come in the columns. So that is that for the row subquery. We have the table subquery that returns multiple rows. In this case, it returns probably an entire staff members of an organization with their details, right? It's not just one person now, as we have seen as we saw in the row subquery. The table subquery will return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as many as you want it to return with their columns, with their details. All right. So where and how can these subqueries be used? It's not in every clause in SQL that you can use subqueries. Subqueries are used in the where clause. Subqueries are used in the from clause, and subqueries are used in the select statement. So very shortly, we're going to start looking at it with the table that we already have. We will jump into it and see how we can use subqueries in these three places. So like I said, this is our file that we'll be using all along. So we'll continue to use this table. So First of all, we're going to start with the select clause. How we can use the select clause to in our subqueries. Okay, first of all, we say select. Our database is running. We say select. Want to select the ID, comma, the age, comma. Why is our select statement giving us an error? Let's start again. Let's see what's happening here. So we say this has to end here so that we can have our select statement here. So we say select ID, comma, the age, and the next is our subquery. We say select. Remember, it's a full query that is inside another query. Select average of the age. We want to find the average of the age or ages of the people in this table from employees. We're going to be using the employees data table rather for this. All right, from employees. Okay, as words, we close this. This is our subquery. This is our subquery in here. Be sure to always at every point put your subqueries inside brackets, side parentheses. So we would want this to come out as averages. Okay, let's continue. We'll get that. Select this from employees. Let's see what happens here. Let's close this and let's run this. It has gone through. You see this, it is written here as, this is the query, and it is written here as select average age from employees. So we don't want this to appear as this, so we give an alias to it. We say as what? Average age. Let's call this average age. Average. What's the spelling? No, that's not the spelling. Average age underscore age. Okay, and let's run this again and see what it gives us. Correct. So it's the entirety of this subquery is this. It's now represented as this. What we just ran here is the average ages of all the people on this table. We just selected their ID and their age. We could select their ID, their first name, and the rest of that. All right. We could select all the columns and then run their average. Remember that a subquery is a query that is nested inside the main query. So, and make sure that your subqueries are always bounded by braces. Now, this is how to use the select clause in your subquery. Next, we are going to use the where clause. All right. Next, we're going to use the where clause. We say it's not all the clauses that works with subquery. You can only use the where clause, the select clause, and the from clause in your subqueries. All right. You cannot use your order by here in your subqueries, and that is how it works. So remember I said that subqueries are often kind of difficult, it is easier to use your city because, and as you progress in your work, you can easily call that query, but your subquery, once you create it, if you want to use it again, you have to create it again. If you want to use it again, you have to create it again, which can be very tiring. All right, so it's not, subqueries are good, but most times when you're dealing with complex queries, it's advisable to use your CTEs. That is my own advice to my students to people. But if subqueries work for you, that's fine. Remember, we said that one of the purposes of subqueries is to help to filter out information from a large table, from your large one, or from large queries. All right, you can use a subquery to filter out information from such a large query. Now, the next is to use our where clause. You say select. We are still going to use our select statement. We'll select our ID. Let's select our ID. This time, select the first name, first underscore name. I hope that's how it's written, comma. All right. From, we're selecting from where? From employees. I said we're going to be using our employees table. From employees, right? Where, okay, we can bring this word down here, where the student's ages, where the age is greater than, you open your braces and say select average. You see what I said? Each time you want to use your subquery, you have to write it again. But if it were your city, you call the one, you can just copy this, or you can just call this and then bring it in and it will run. All right. But because we have, this is a subquery, each time you want to use it, you still have to write it. So we want to see the people whose ages are greater than the average age, right? So we say greater than the average age. Okay. From where? Sorry, yes, average age. We close this. From employees. Okay, we close this. Then put our, why is this giving us? We select ID, first name, from employees. From employees. Okay, let's run this and see. Good. Now, only Diane and Daniel have their ages bigger than the average of the students, or than the average of the ages, the cumulative ages of these students. Next, we move forward to using the where, the from clause. The from clause. All right. So here we just select all. I say select all from. Open your braces, select. We want to select this time the first name. Let's leave the ID alone. First underscore name. All right. The age. Can select their age. Can select, what else do we have there? First name, age, maybe last name. Let's use last name. I think we have it there, something like this. I hope I have it correct. From employees. Then we'll close it. Now, when you're dealing with the from clause in your subqueries, you always put an alias to the subquery. Every subquery that you use in using the from clause that you bring in the main query, in the main query, should always have an alias. This alias can be any number, can be any name, can be any alphabet, can be anything, but just be sure to put an alias so that it can run. That is how these things work. You run this, and this is this. So we have their first name, their age, and their last name. So this is how to use these three main clauses in your subqueries. All right, we have seen how to use our select statement. Here, our subquery is inside the parentheses. Okay, the second one is the where clause. Same thing, our subquery is found inside the parentheses. And the last one, the from clause, our subquery is inside parentheses. Be sure always to put your subqueries inside parentheses. Okay, and for the from clause, always be sure to put an alias behind your subquery for it to run. So majorly, having said this, or majorly, we would say that subqueries are always, like I've said it somewhere, they are always enclosed in parentheses, and subqueries can impact performances on a large data or on your data, as we have seen. Thank you.